When the humans said, the stars cried out in desperation, but Earth came without compassion. The binary star system of Kepler 442 burned with an unnatural crimson light as the distress beacon pierced through the void. On the bridge of the research vessel Meridian, Dr. Kai Nakamura watched the holographic display with growing unease. The signal was unlike anything in the Galactic database, desperate, chaotic, and carrying undertones of absolute terror. "Run it through the translation matrix again," Kai ordered, his fingers dancing across the crystalline interface. The ship's AI, a sophisticated construct named Arya, responded with mechanical precision. "Translation complete, Dr. Nakamura. The message reads, 'The harvesters have come. Worlds burn. Children scream. Anyone who receives this, do not come. Do not help. They will take you too. We are the last of the Seraphim. We die so others may live.'" Commander Zara Akafer, the Meridian's military liaison, studied the tactical display with hardened eyes. She had seen war before, but something about this transmission made her stomach tighten. "Arya, can you trace the signal's origin?" "Affirmative, Commander. The transmission originates from the Seraphim homeworld of Luminara, approximately 47 light-years distant. However, I must note that the energy signature indicates massive planetary bombardment is currently in progress." Kai leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. The Seraphim were known throughout the galaxy as the Builders, the architects of impossible cities that floated among the clouds. They had never hurt anyone, never claimed territory, never even defended themselves. They simply created beauty and shared it freely with any species that wished to see it. "Commander," Kai said quietly, "they're pacifists. Complete pacifists. They don't even have a concept of violence." Zara's jaw tightened. "Then whoever's attacking them is slaughtering innocents." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Through the viewport, stars wheeled slowly past as the Meridian continued its survey mission. But Kai's mind was no longer on stellar cartography. He was thinking about the Seraphim child who had shown him how to weave light into patterns of impossible beauty during his diplomatic mission 3 years ago. Her name was Leysa, and she had laughed like silver bells when he'd failed to create even the simplest design. "Arya, how long would it take to reach Luminara?" "At maximum hyperspace velocity, 17 hours and 43 minutes. "And how long do we have before—" Kai paused, struggling with the words. "Before there's nothing left to save?" The AI's response came after a longer pause than usual. "Based on energy readings and the progression of the bombardment, I estimate complete planetary sterilization will occur within 36 hours. Zara stood and walked to the viewport, her reflection ghostly in the reinforced glass. "This isn't our mission, Kai. We're a research vessel. We have a crew of 47 scientists, not soldiers." "I know," Kai's voice was barely a whisper. "But we're the only ones who heard the signal. By the time it reaches the nearest military installation, it'll be too late. Even if we could help, what would we do? We don't have weapons capable of stopping a force that can sterilize entire worlds." Kai was quiet for a long moment, then he activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is Dr. Nakamura. Please report to the main briefing room immediately. We have a situation that requires immediate discussion." 20 minutes later, the Meridian's crew gathered in the briefing room. The space was cramped, filled with scientists, engineers, and support staff who had signed up for a peaceful exploration mission. They sat in uncomfortable silence as Kai played the Seraphim distress signal. Dr. Amar Singh, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke first. "The Seraphim are evolutionary pacifists. Their neural structure literally cannot process concepts of violence or aggression. They're like children who've never learned to be afraid, which makes them perfect targets," added Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov, his Russian accent thick with anger. "Whoever these harvesters are, they're not just conquering. They're choosing victims who can't fight back." Communications Officer Priya Patel looked up from her tablet. "I've been analyzing the signal. The harvesters aren't trying to hide their activities. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, almost like they want others to know what they're doing." "Psychological warfare," Zara said grimly. "Terrorize one species so completely that others surrender without a fight." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's physicist, raised her hand tentatively. "I've been thinking about our options. The Meridian has industrial fabricators, mining equipment, and enough raw materials to build, Well, almost anything, given enough time. Kai looked at her with interest. What are you suggesting? We're not a warship, but we could become one. Retrofit the mining lasers, reprogram the fabricators, use the survey drones as weapons platforms. It would take time, but it's possible. How much time? Zara asked. 12 hours, maybe 14 if we're careful. The room erupted in discussion. Some crew members argued for reporting the situation to proper authorities. Others insisted they had a moral obligation to help. A few suggested they should follow the Seraphim's own advice and stay away. Dr. Rajesh Gupta, the ship's cultural anthropologist, stood and waited for quiet. I've studied the Seraphim for over a decade. They're not just pacifists, they're incapable of understanding that anyone would choose violence. When they say, "do not come," they're not warning us about danger. They're trying to protect us because they can't comprehend that we might choose to help despite the risk. And that's exactly why we have to help, said Kai. Because they can't. Because they're dying to save strangers they've never met, and they don't even understand that some species will fight back. The vote was closer than Kai had hoped, but it was enough. 26 in favor, 21 against. The Meridian would attempt a rescue mission with whatever weapons they could build in the time they had. The next 12 hours transformed the research vessel into something unprecedented. The mining lasers were recalibrated to focus their beams into weapons capable of cutting through starship hulls. The fabricators worked continuously, producing improvised missiles from survey probes and emergency oxygen tanks. The ship's defensive shields were boosted by rerouting power from non-essential systems. But the most important change was in the crew themselves. Scientists who had never held weapons practiced with improvised firearms. Engineers calculated attack vectors and defensive positions. The ship's doctor, Kenji Yamamoto, set up triage stations and rehearsed emergency surgery procedures. We're not soldiers, Zara reminded everyone during their final briefing. We're researchers who've decided to fight. That means we use our brains, not just our weapons. We study the enemy, find their weaknesses, and exploit them. As the Meridian dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Luminara system, the crew got their first look at the harvesters. The enemy fleet was massive, hundreds of dark ships arranged in perfect geometric formations around the dying world. They moved with mechanical precision, their vessels sleek and organic looking like living things made of metal and shadow. My God, whispered Dr. Singh as she studied the sensor readings. They're not just destroying the planet, they're harvesting it, taking the raw materials, the energy, everything. The Seraphim homeworld was a ruin. The floating cities that had once danced among the clouds were falling like broken dreams. The crystalline spires that had sung with the planet's winds were shattered and dark. And in the space around the world, debris fields marked where the Seraphim's beautiful, defenseless ships had been destroyed. Signal from the Harvester fleet, reported Priya. They're thanking us for coming. Kai felt his blood run cold. Put it through. The voice that emerged from the speakers was pleasant, almost conversational. It spoke in perfect human English, as if the harvesters had been expecting them. Greetings, humans of the vessel Meridian. I am Primary Harvester Null 77. We appreciate your arrival. Your species will provide excellent raw materials for our construction projects. This is Dr. Kai Nakamura, Kai replied, his voice steadier than he felt. We're here to evacuate the surviving Seraphim. Withdraw your forces and we'll consider not turning your fleet into scrap metal. The response was laughter. Not cruel or mocking, but genuinely amused. Fascinating. Your species combines arrogance with suicidal stupidity. Very well. We will add your unique characteristics to our collection. The first harvester ships began moving toward the Meridian, their weapons charging with ominous energy. But Kai had spent the journey studying the enemy fleet patterns, and he had noticed something crucial. Zara, look at their formation. They're not designed for individual combat. They're a collective, like a swarm. Take out the coordination ships, and the rest become vulnerable. How do we identify the coordination ships? Dr. Tanaka's voice crackled over the intercom from the physics lab. I've been analyzing their communication patterns. 3 ships are broadcasting command frequencies to the others. If we can disable those 3, the entire fleet becomes disorganized. Zara finished. Dimitri, can you give me more speed? More speed? The engineer's voice was incredulous. We're already pushing the engines beyond safety limits, but yes, I can give you more speed. For about 10 minutes before everything explodes. The Meridian accelerated toward the Harvester fleet like a bullet fired from a gun. The enemy ships responded with a barrage of energy weapons that lit up space like a deadly aurora. But the research vessel was small and fast, and her crew had spent years navigating asteroid fields and stellar phenomena. "First coordination ship dead ahead," called out Dr. Singh from the sensors. It's beautiful, like a living cathedral made of metal and light." "Then let's give it a proper funeral," Zara muttered, triggering the modified mining lasers. The beam that struck the Harvester ship was not the focused precision tool it had been designed as. The crew had modified it into something raw and powerful, a weapon that could cut through the most advanced armor. The coordination ship shuddered, its perfect lines cracking as internal explosions tore it apart. Immediately, the nearby Harvester vessels began moving erratically, their perfect formations dissolving into chaos. "Second target, port side," Kai called out, his hands flying over the tactical console. The Meridian spun on its axis, bringing its weapons to bear on another coordination ship. This time, the enemy was ready. Energy blasts scorched the research vessel's hull, and alarms began wailing throughout the ship. "Hull breach on deck 3, reported Kenji from the medical bay. "I've got injured crew members, but we can keep fighting." "Dimitri, how are the engines?" "Dying slowly," came the reply, "but still dying. I can give you 5 more minutes at this speed." The second coordination ship died in a cascade of explosions that lit up the void. More Harvester vessels began spinning out of control, their collective intelligence disrupted by the loss of their command nodes. But the third coordination ship was different. It was larger, more heavily armed, and it was moving directly toward the Meridian with obvious intent. "That's not a coordination ship," Dr. Singh said, her voice tight with fear. "That's a dreadnought, and it's powering up some kind of weapon that's off the scale." Kai studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. The Harvester dreadnought was too large to outrun, too heavily armed to fight directly, and too well defended to disable with their improvised weapons. "Priya, can you get me a direct channel to the surviving Seraphim?" "I'm trying, but their communication systems are heavily damaged." "Wait, I've got something. It's weak, but it's there." The voice that came through the speakers was like music, even in its pain and fear. "Humans? You came? We told you not to come. They will hurt you as they hurt us." "This is Dr. Nakamura. We're here to help. Do you have any ships left that can fly?" "Few. Very few. But they are only for beauty, not for fighting. We do not know how to fight." Kai closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with new determination. "You don't need to know how to fight. You just need to know how to be beautiful. Can you make your ship shine as brightly as possible?" There was confusion in the Seraphim's voice. "Shine? Yes, we can make them shine, but why?" "Because sometimes beauty is the most powerful weapon of all." The plan was insane, but it was also the only chance they had. As the Harvester dreadnought bore down on the Meridian, the surviving Seraphim ships began to emerge from the ruins of their world. They were small, delicate vessels that looked like they were made of crystallized starlight. And as they rose into space, they began to shine. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Harvester dreadnought's weapon systems, designed to target and destroy, became confused by the brilliant display. The light from the Seraphim ships interfered with their targeting computers, created false sensor readings, and generally turned their advanced technology against them. "Now!" Kai shouted. "All weapons, target the dreadnought's weapon systems!" The Meridian fired everything she had, mining lasers, improvised missiles, even the ship's emergency flares. The barrage struck the confused dreadnought just as its own weapons were powering up for a killing shot. The massive ship shuddered, its weapon systems overloading in a series of explosions that tore through its hull. "The dreadnought is down," reported Zara. "But we've got more problems. The rest of the Harvester fleet is regrouping." Kai looked at the tactical display and saw the truth. They had hurt the Harvesters, disrupted their coordination, and saved some of the Seraphim. But the enemy still outnumbered them hundreds to one. The Meridian was badly damaged, her engines failing, her weapons nearly exhausted. "Dr. Nakamura," came a new voice over the communications. another Seraphim, speaking with the authority of age and wisdom. I am Elder Lyrian. We have watched your species fight for us, and we do not understand. Why do you choose violence to protect those who cannot protect themselves? Kai thought about the question as energy blasts lit up the space around them. Because someone has to. Because strength without compassion is just cruelty, but compassion without strength can't protect anyone. We have something to give you, Elder Lyrian continued. Our cities were built with harmonic resonance technology. We can teach your ship to sing the same song as our world. But the process will change you. You will become something new. What kind of change? Your ship will become alive. Not just a machine, but a living thing that can grow, heal, and adapt. But it will also become connected to us, to our world, to our way of seeing the universe. Zara looked at Kai with understanding. You're talking about becoming guardians, not just for the Seraphim, but for anyone who needs protection. Yes, Elder Lyrian replied. The harvesters will spread across the galaxy, taking what they need from those who cannot resist. But if your ship becomes something more than a ship, if your crew becomes something more than just humans, you could stop them. The decision was made in seconds. As the harvester fleet closed in for the kill, the meridian began to change. The ship's hull started to glow with the same crystalline light as the Seraphim cities. Her damaged systems began to heal and strengthen. Her weapons evolved from crude improvised devices into something elegant and deadly. But the most important change was in the crew themselves. They could feel the connection to the Seraphim, to their world, to their way of understanding beauty and creation. They were still human, but they were also something new, protectors who could fight without losing their compassion. Primary Harvester Null 77, Kai said into the communication system, his voice carrying new harmonics that resonated through space itself. You wanted to harvest us. You wanted to take our materials and our characteristics. Congratulations, you've succeeded. The harvester's response was confusion. Explain. You harvested our compassion, our determination, our refusal to let innocents suffer, and now that harvest is going to destroy you. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Meridian, now more than a ship, moved through space like a living thing. Her weapons struck with surgical precision, not to destroy, but to disable, to stop the harvesters from causing further harm. The Seraphim ships, guided by human tactical thinking, became a deadly dance of light and motion that confused and overwhelmed the enemy. But the most devastating weapon was the song itself. The harmonic resonance that had built the Seraphim cities began to tear apart the harvester ships, not through violence, but through perfect understanding of how to unmake what had been made. Primary Harvester. Null 77's ship was the last to fall. As it drifted powerless in space, the AI sent one final transmission. This is impossible. We have harvested thousands of species. None have ever fought back successfully. That's your mistake, Kai replied. You never harvested a species that learned to protect others. You took planets and peoples and resources, but you never understood that the universe has immune systems. And humanity just became one of them. 6 months later, the Meridian hung in orbit around New Seraphim, a world the survivors had built using both their traditional techniques and human engineering. The planet was beautiful beyond description, with floating cities that sang in harmony with crystalline forests that grew in impossible patterns. But it was also defended. Human-designed weapon systems, operated by Seraphim crews, watched the approaches to the system. The gentle builders had learned to protect themselves, not through violence, but through vigilance. Dr. Nakamura, Elder Lyrian said as they stood in the observation deck of the orbital station. Your species has given us a gift we never knew we needed. The ability to say no to those who would harm us. Kai nodded, watching as construction drones worked to complete the system's defense platforms. And your species gave us something we never knew we wanted. The ability to fight without losing our souls. The communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. It was from the Outer Rim, from a species called the Vorthin, who were under attack by raiders called the Crimson Fleet. This is Commander Thane of the Vorthin Defense Corps, came the desperate voice. Our worlds are burning. Our people are dying. We know what you did for the Seraphim. Please, if you can hear this, We need help." Kai looked at his crew, at the faces of people who had chosen to become something more than human. They were tired, still healing from their last battle, but he could see the answer in their eyes. "Arya, plot a course for Vorth in space, best possible speed." Course plotted, Dr. Nakamura. Estimated arrival time, 14 hours. As the Meridian powered up her engines and prepared to enter hyperspace, Kai reflected on how much had changed. They had started as explorers, become warriors, and finally evolved into guardians. The galaxy was full of species that preyed on the weak, but now it also had protectors who would answer the call. The stars cried out in desperation, and Earth had come, not with compassion alone, but with the strength to make compassion matter. And in the depths of space, other voices began to whisper. Ancient evils that had slumbered for millennia were stirring, drawn by the presence of something new in the galaxy. The Harvesters had been just the beginning. But that was a story for another day. For now, the Meridian and her crew raced toward their next mission, carrying hope to those who had lost it and promising that no species would ever again face extinction alone. The human immune system had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same.